Cool. All right. Thank you everybody for coming this afternoon. Can everybody hear me all right? Everybody hear me okay? Cool. Really quickly before I get started, can I get a show of hands? Entrepreneurs? Okay. Investors? People interested in IoT? Okay, a few more hands. Thank you. It's nice, not too big of an audience, not too big of a crowd, so I really like engaging with everybody in the audience. If you have questions, any comments, please go ahead and ask them at that time. More than happy to talk back and forth with all of you guys during this presentation. So quick rundown, want to give an introduction to myself, give an introduction to my company Brink. We'll be talking about IoT trends and development in Hong Kong. We'll also be talking about validating your next product launch. And then the last will be a Q&A. So if you raise your hand, if you're interested in IoT, or if you want to launch a product, whether it's software, hardware, information product, ask me questions. This is what I do professionally. I'll go a bit more into my background, but I've never launched a business and failed. Everything I've launched after becoming successful has been successful since then. Quick introduction to Brink. So we are an end-to-end IoT platform. What that means is we support entrepreneurs at every stage of development if they're an IoT hardware entrepreneur. So if you are early stage, working on your concept, still going through prototyping, need support going to market and scaling up that operation, we can help you there. Or if you're already a successful startup trying to scale up your operations, distribution, retail, manufacturing at scale, we can also support you there. This is a really nice diagram about what our company does, but ultimately we enable founders to build awesome things. We are a team of in-house experts. Everybody from our team who's come together has been a successful startup founder themselves. And I'll dive a bit more into my background personally. I can jump more into the team also. Quick introduction to myself. So Nick Ramil, I'm from Beaverton, Oregon in the USA. Successful serial entrepreneur. Currently, I'm a founding team member and the head of validation at Brink. But as you can see in the past, I've had a wine import company that got acquired in 2013. Have raised more than $3 million for separate brands and follow along investment rounds for those brands via Kickstarter or Indiegogo. And I launched an information product about how to do business in China called Enter China. And this has successfully done 6 figures profit in under 12 months. But day to day, what I do is Brink. And I love what I do every single day, which is work with founders and help them build their businesses and find success. Again, as you can see, background is very varied. I've done a lot of different things, but every time I've produced a successful result. And that's because of the methodology that we use in validating our business before launching it. And I'll go into that more. IoT development in Hong Kong, obviously we're in a smart section. There's VR, there's wearables, there's a whole bunch of startups here. This is a very hot space right now. Growth in 3 key areas. Number 1 would be startups. We've seen a lot more local startups as well as international founders from abroad coming and setting up operations in Hong Kong, setting up their HK corporations, jumping over the border to Shenzhen to have their products manufactured or prototyped. Ultimately, people are becoming more aware at Hong Kong becoming a hardware hub. I believe it's number 5 fastest growing startup ecosystem globally. Accelerator programs, so Brink, we are one of them. There is also Wearable World, there is Nest Infinity program, there's new co-working spaces. Essentially, there's a lot more space and community developing around startups here in Hong Kong. So that's super exciting. When we first got here in 2014, there wasn't nearly as much as there is today, just 2 years later. Third, investor appetite. 2 years ago, having to talk to investors about investing into an IoT business was a lot harder than it is today. Software was extremely popular here in Hong Kong, but now the openness for people to invest into hardware businesses because they understand how to monetize and capitalize those businesses easier means there's our investor pool, who we go to talk to about our investments, is a lot more open to now investing in IoT businesses. Why Hong Kong? So we're all here in Hong Kong. You guys have done the hardest part, which is showing up A lot of people hear about Asia, Hong Kong, China, but they're not willing to make the jump. You guys have done that. That's incredible. In regards to the strategic reasons of using Hong Kong, obviously Shenzhen, if you're in IoT and hardware, Shenzhen is the hardware capital of the world, period. That's where, if you're manufacturing at scale, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 units, that's where you do it. That is not debatable. You can go to Canada for 5,000 unit production runs. You can do manufacturing in the USA for 10,000 units. But if you actually reach max capacity and scalability of being a real, profitable, large IoT business, you can do that in one place. That's Shenzhen, actually Guangdong, China. So not just Shenzhen, but Guangdong, China. Also want to talk about the ecosystem here. As I said, it's growing extremely quickly. Invest Hong Kong, I believe they're up here somewhere, has been a huge supporter in bringing entrepreneurs, helping founders get visas, helping them incorporate their businesses, essentially making it easier to be a startup here in Hong Kong. And when you have a government who's willing to support these startups and initiatives we're doing, and companies such as Global Sources putting together startup launchpads like these, then what you see is a lot more activity because they've lowered the friction and barriers to entry to become a thriving startup in that community. So we've seen growth in 3 key verticals at Brink. All 3 of these are our investments. Health and wellness is an explosive vertical we've seen for IoT. Simple Wearables is one of our investments, has a predictive algorithm that lets family members or medical professionals know if the person it's moderating may potentially have a fall in the near future based off their movement behavior. Smart home, I know everybody has heard of Nest, has heard of the smart blinds. Kello is one of our investments. They're on Kickstarter right now. If you guys want to go to kickstarter.com and search for Kello, they've done 305,000. Last time I looked, they're down to their final 2 days. But smart home, as in everybody integrating more smart functional features into their house, is something else that we've seen globally growing, but a lot of founders and hardware companies focused on smart home are relocating here. And then lifestyle, so Amio Audio, which their booth is right there, as you can see. You should go try out that technology after this talk when you have a break. It's personalized hearing, personalized audio. So after a quick 60-minute audio test, it will recalibrate all input to, there's the founder of Amio, right there, 60 second hearing test. Thank you, Paul. You will go ahead and hear that you will have tailored audio because everybody's hearing is different. Left ear, right ear, every one of you is hearing me differently right now. So what this does is overall, it increases the overall pleasure and sound of the audio, but it reduces the overall volume. So it helps protect your ears. And so those were the 3 main areas of growth that we've seen. That was a little introduction to the ecosystem. Now what I'm extremely passionate about and what I do every single day and what I've done every single day of my professional career is validation and bringing products to market, successfully launching businesses. So what I'm talking about today will be 3 keys to validate your next product launch. So quickly here, wanted to get this out in the very beginning, what validation is and what validation is not. So validation is analytical. It is all based off data. You always go to the data because data doesn't lie. A lot of people have hopes and aspirations of what their business will do, but until you've validated that in advance, there's no way to know whether your product will be successful or not. A lot of hard work. I was on a panel last week with Kickstarter, and a lot of the audience was asking questions, essentially how they reach success without doing the hard work. And after getting that question about 4 or 5 times of people looking for shortcuts, there is no shortcut. You want to build a business, be ready to put in the work and hustle. And then it's honest. This is another thing I love. Many founders here, all the founders I work with, extremely passionate people. They believe they can sell their product the best. They believe they know the best way to sell it. position it, message it, price it. They don't know. That's the reality. The market knows. The market will tell you the truth. You don't know the truth. You have a hypothesis, you have an assumption, and until that's validated in advance properly, then you have a business. What validation is not, I already touched on this a little bit, is not aspirational. It's not something you hope and you wish for. Some startups do become extremely lucky and are extremely lucky, and they hit target market fit the first time. My hat's off to them. The majority, the great majority, 90+% do not. This has nothing to do with aspirations and hopes and dreams. It has to do all with doing that work. It is not sexy. Everybody, for some reason right now, being an entrepreneur and running your own business is become something that's cool and sexy, and everybody points to Steve Jobs and Elon Musk building rockets. Elon Musk will sleep at the end of a quality control line at Tesla in a sleeping bag. That's not sexy. You know, Steve Jobs, when you look at his life as an entrepreneur, that wasn't the easiest by any means at all either. And all of these great entrepreneurs has nothing to do with being cool. It has to be with building their business. Gary Vaynerchuk, I don't know if anybody here knows who he is or watches his channel. He's an extremely inspirational person when it comes to putting in the work and building the right business. And then it's not limited. Today's world, the internet, how interconnected we are, every single day it gets better and better. There's more people signing up to Facebook. There's more apps opening. There's more interconnected flights. Essentially, every single day it gets better and more opportunistic to become an entrepreneur. It was not easier or better 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago. It is progressively improving if you know how to leverage the right tools in front of you. So how we validate at Brink, sorry if it's a little bit fuzzy, but essentially all I want to show you with these slides is the amount of work that we put in before we launch our product. The first one is a simple Gantt chart where we run you through timelines, setting expectations, and putting out a projection to when we believe we will be ready to launch, if everything goes according to plan, which as a startup, it never does. The middle is an example of the outreach that we do before we start developing a product, before we start positioning it, before customer interviews and engaging with those customers, before launching your business. You have to go find out where those customers are spending time, where are they hanging out, where are they communicating, how are they communicating, what channels. All of this research is integral to do in advance before you say you're going to launch product X. You have to go do the due diligence and the research first. And then lastly, what you can see is a feedback form. Actually, this is Amio's copy. You can't see anything from here. But essentially, before we launched their business, we had engaged hundreds and thousands of customers in advance with their technology, with the user experience. How do you like the app? What do you like or not like about the hardware? And we take this feedback, we categorize it, we track it, and we figure out what the customers do like and what they do not like. Again, you can do all of this in advance. 90% of a launch, 90% of any business launch is preparation, and it's done before you launch. Too many people launch an e-commerce website, an Indiegogo campaign, a Kickstarter campaign, and it fails, and they say, oh, I wish I knew. Well, why did you not do this in advance? That's always my question. Why didn't you know? There's only one reason you didn't know, and it's because you didn't do the work. So do that work in advance, and you won't be disappointed. So validation, I want to touch on 3 buckets. I will be talking about target market analysis, communication, and engagement. And again, guys, these are tactics that I use for our investments. I'm sharing information I share with our investments. This is all for you to use and leverage. Most of you won't. Most of you, reality is, will take all of this information, write it down, and then not use it, still launch your business and fail and ask why. It's because you didn't do what I'm about to show you. Couldn't be more simple than that. So target market analysis, there is one goal: find your customers. If you're making a watch, if you're making a chair, if you're making a backpack, a speaker, a cell phone accessory, it doesn't matter. You have to go find who you think your customer is. And who you think your customer is and who your customer actually is, odds are those are different people, and they are always different people. But that's why you go do this in advance. So I've said due diligence and research. All you want to do is find out, where do they live? Where do they spend time online? Where do they spend time offline? We send our investments to shops around Hong Kong, to shops in their home country. We also have them search forums, Facebook groups, communities, Google Plus groups, you name it. Essentially, you need to be doing all of this in advance. Pill Drill, this is one of our investments. I put this up here because they did a very good example. They did this very well. They went, they found their audience, and they started engaging with their audience in advance and asking, first of all, they wanted to know, is this a real problem? Are we solving a real problem? They had 10 prototypes. After doing 50 user tests, they were not given 2 of their prototypes back because the product delivered so much value in its simple form that the user did not want to live without this product anymore. That is a very good example of early stage validation and confirming you have indeed found your customer. Communication. So this is one I see a lot of founders normally make a mistake on. Figuring out what resonates with your audience. So you may have the best product for your audience and your potential customers. You may have the best solution. You may deliver the value they're looking for, but if you can't communicate that correctly, then they're not going to buy it. It is that simple. Unless you figure out in advance how that customer is talking about their product, how they're talking about their pain, how they're talking about their needs, the words they're using, the adjectives they're describing the product with, and until you're figuring out how your customer is communicating, you will not reach this level of success you could potentially. So this all comes down to branding, positioning, and messaging. Again, you can test all of this in advance. Kello, our investment, who will be done on Kickstarter in about 45 hours. So we tested branding, positioning, messaging for months. We tested 47 different headlines, 15 different slogans, 25 different hero images. We changed button color. We changed join to join us, to become a member, to join the community. All of these things, this is all data you're using, collecting, and figuring out what works best with your audience. We organically built a list of 10,000 users that was engaging at a 50% open and response rate. Now, if you don't know data or email list analytics or averages very well, that may not mean nothing to you, but that's extremely high for any industry. If 1 out of every 2 people are opening your email and responding, that means you have properly engaged your audience. And because of this, in the first 2 hours, actually about 90 minutes, we reached our goal of 50,000. In the first 24 hours, we reached 128,000 US organically. No digital marketing, no extra pushing. It was engaging with our customers because we figured out their pain, we resonated, we messaged our product around it, and then we sold it to them. And engagement. So engaging as many customers as possible. And this is something that always makes me laugh. People are so proud of the product they have, and they're so sure it's going to sell, but they don't talk to their customer before they try and sell it. And that just makes absolutely zero sense. This is customer development 101. Again, I had to block out names and emails, but this is Amio's customer feedback form as well that I was telling you about. You can see individuals writing single sentences saying, this product was great because of X. Or you can see people wrote paragraphs and said, this product was okay, but it would be better because of Y. And what I loved about it was Z, and so on and so forth. And what you're figuring out again is you're collecting all of this data and getting real customer feedback before you launch your product. An integral part of this is customer interviews. Again, Customer interviews are great, but there's a right way and a wrong way to do them. Jobs to be done is a great example of how you do customer interviews. Steve Blank has an incredible manifesto about doing customer interviews. Essentially, you do customer interviews the correct way, you'll get the feedback you need to build the right business. That's how easy it really is. Sometimes it takes 2 weeks to find product market fit. Sometimes it takes 2 years. And this is all based off the communication and engaging up front. Again, you can have an incredibly successful launch, but if your product is not actually delivering value to your end customer, you have a timeline before your business goes out of business. It's that simple. So test, test, test. As I've said, I said it 3 times because it's that important. And making sure you set up the funnels to increase that engagement. So after someone opts into your landing page, for example, after you do a customer interview, that's not it. You need to make sure they're in your autoresponder funnel. You need to make sure when they email you, you email them back. You're asking for a face-to-face Skype call. After a customer interview, you sit down face-to-face. Then you're asking for a reference. Who of their network would be interested in this product and why? Again, you collect and you organically build. As a startup, all you're trying to do is, before you launch, prove that there is a need in your market, and then secondly, prove that you're communicating it to them the right way. Last slide, couldn't be more simple. Enjoy the ride. I continue to learn new things every single day. I'm by no means the know-it-all about customer development. I'm always happy to be proven wrong if you prove me wrong with data. An opinion is subjective. It has no weight in the real world. What you think, what I think, I could really care less. Go show me with data why you believe what you're saying and why the market wants your product. And if you can show me enough data with a big enough sample size, with good enough response rates and percentages, then I believe you. And I'm proven wrong all the time with data, and I'm happy because I know I'm not always right. But you have to show me, don't tell me. So embrace, learn, and improve. Again, every entrepreneur story is the same. You have 2 choices. You can give up and you quit and then you fail, or you can continue to learn, iterate, improve until you reach success in the goal you want. And that's really our journey, and that's what we believe in supporting all of our investments with as well. So again, enjoy the ride. And that's all I have for you guys. Hopefully you found some of that information valuable and informative. We'll be more than happy to take some questions if anybody has questions. If not, feel free to come up and talk to me one-on-one. That's also okay. And thank you for your time.
Great tips, Nick. Anyone?
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I'm curious about how you build I think you said 15,000 contact lists pre-launch to assess and validate the proposal. Did I get that right?
Yes, 10,000 emails.
10,000, all right. So how do you go about it? I mean, if there's no product out there, if the company still wants to be low profile, how do you go about doing that?
Of course, as a startup, all depends on budget. There is ways you can use capital. It's startup, right? You have time or you have money. That's the spectrum. And if you have more money, you can take less time. If you have more time and you have less money, then you're putting the time in. But being able, I wish I could get the slide up, but to be able to build that list, what we did with Kello, we did a minimum spend on digital marketing through Facebook ads. That was the paid. And then we also built organically. We jumped into forums about sleep. We commented on Quora or Reddit about people who had sleeping problems and engaged the people who we thought were our target market audience and we communicated with them and brought them to our website, to our landing page. And then after people opt in, because on your landing page you have your headline, your slogan, and essentially your product and the benefits that it does, correct? And then after people see that, they say, I'm interested in this product. So they give the email, and then from there, you're able to start the conversation with those people.
How long was that process?
Again, if you have capital to spend, you could do it in 2 to 3 months. I mean, you could do it in 2 weeks if you have enough money. You could do it in 2 days. if you want to, to build that list. But then the big thing is the quality of the list. I know a lot of people who have 100,000 person email lists, but they open at 0.0002%. That doesn't, I'd much rather have a small, high quality list like we had with Kello than a large, unactive list that I've seen with other startups. Again, it could be 2 weeks, it could be 2 years. It all depends on how good you are at communicating with your audience and building it up organically from there.
Okay, thank you for your question.
Cool.
Anyone else? Okay. Thank you, Nick.
Cool. Thanks
Thank
all.
you so much. Round of applause.